Live from Jefferson City, it's the This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update with Scott Faughn.
Welcome in to This Week in Missouri Politics Midweek Update. We are here. Jake Crozen, Kelton Turner. Kelton, will we have a new logo for next week?
I have it whipped up and ready to go.
Oh, new logo for the midweek show. Gonna love that. Want to start off by thanking our sponsors, United Fiber from the great Northwest, as well as the Courtyard by Marriott. Very grateful to have their support. Lets us come and talk a little politics with you, Jake. So session is now actually started.
Yep.
I always, the first week when you have the swearing in, they just come in on Wednesday. All the families are there. It's really a celebratory thing. Mm-hmm. The next week with the inauguration, you have the ball and all that. It's really hard to get going. You had committee chairs and stuff get announced after the inauguration. So this week was abbreviated with Martin Luther King, but there's a little legislative. Next week's kind of the first real week of session.
Yeah.
But you saw today they had the St. Louis crime bill.
Yep.
You could tell if you've watched this show, you knew what the top priority was going to be moving through. It's an interesting box, and I talked about this with Chad Perkins. On one hand, should the state be running a local police department? If I was a taxpayer in the city of St. Louis, or resident, I don't think I'd like this at all. Mm-hmm. I don't think if you lived in Dexter, or if you lived in Palmyra, and the state was taking over your local police, I think you'd have a beef with it. However, I do think if you're Mike Kehoe, you want to grow this state. I don't know how you grow this state in a substantial way. Kansas City can only do so much.
Yep.
Without the St. Louis business community having an uptick, and I don't see how they have an uptick with the current crime rate. Or the impression. I mean, I don't know. To me, I think you can fudge the numbers around and stuff. I mean, if there are fewer murders, that's good. Mm-hmm. But what is an acceptable number of murders to think somewhere is safe, right? I think this is as much a perception thing as it is an actual crime thing. I just don't know what you do.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, obviously, before we came into this, everybody knew that this was going to be probably going to be a pretty tough fight in the Senate. The House, obviously, they can do whatever they want, but the Senate's where things are really going to.
Carla May.
Yep. Senator Barbara Washington was very, very adamant that that the Kansas City model hasn't been working, so why should it work in St. Louis? And so.
See, I think you have it's a complex issue because you truly have good points on all sides. Mm-hmm. I would say that since they took local control back in the city of St. Louis, it's not like it's been great, mm-hmm. right? I mean, the COVID spike everyone had in crime. I don't think it's a fair. I think you have to give that as an outlier. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, it's an outlier for my life. I hope that it's an outlier for everyone else's life as well. But there's a lot of outliers around COVID, and I think this is one of them. So I guess to me, you could point to, well, okay, you've had local control for 15 years. You've not like you've done anything so great that nobody could, oh my God, how could you ever take it away out of our successes? But also, Barb's right. Kansas City's crime's up, and it's state-run. I mean, it just is.
Yeah.
So, I think those are – you could make a very good case. On a lot of this other stuff, there'll be a crime bill passed, right? I don't think – I'll tell you, here's the thing. I think there are several people that come to this issue, and they come to it almost like wanting to be punitive and to beat on – urban people that maybe Republicans don't like, and they're some of the last people in the state not to vote Republican, right? I think I do think Mike Kehoe comes to this with a very different perspective, mm-hmm. as in he truly wants to see something good happen. Right?
Yeah,
I in my gut, I think Kehoe comes to this truly wanting to solve a problem, not really political points. Because I'll be honest with you, I've said this to him. Can you reduce crime in St. Louis? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's the toughest problem in this state to assess and deal with. If I'm Tashara Jones, I'm almost like, you mean you want to take this? Here you go, buddy. Good luck with it. I mean, she's going to have to be against it. At the end of the day, outside of just taking away powers from her government that she's the head of, politically speaking, now that there's a murder right now, when there's a murder in St. Louis, which let's be honest, there's a murder frequently in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It is a one of the more dangerous.
I don't think I hardly ever see a headline from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on somebody got hit by a car, somebody was shot, like just at least once every day. And it could be the same story going over and over, but I see that pretty often when it comes to St. Louis news.
And how confident, I wonder, because if I'm Mike Kehoe, I'm taking on this problem, and I respect him for doing it. I just wonder, 3 years from now, are you going to feel safer in St. Louis than you do today? And if anybody can do it, I put it on him. And I respect him for wanting the ball. He wants to take the shot in the fourth quarter. Good for him. If I'm Tashard Jones, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be against this, but okay, suckers, take this. And if I'm Mike Kehoe, there's no political upside to do this, except it is. I do believe his point. If you can reduce crime in St. Louis, and in my opinion, reduce the perception of crime in St. Louis, it'll grow. I mean, whatever you think of St. Louis as a region, it's went down, which means there's an opportunity. It may never get to where it was before, but you buy the dips, right? And there will be people that would buy the dip in St. Louis if they got the crime rate down, and that would be very beneficial to the rest of the state.
Yep,
I think. So we'll see. I'm not 100% sure. I just don't know. I think it'll pass. I think they'll find a way to take local control away. I wonder if we're sitting here, me, you, Kelton, and Flat Doug, 3 years from now, if we're like, oh well, by God, they did it. Yeah. I feel safer in St. Louis. If Casey goes to dinner on Washington Avenue, I'm not worried about that. Right now, if she said I'm going to dinner on Washington Avenue with some friends of mine, I'd be like, whoa, hold on. What? Why don't we just not? Why don't we just go to Grand?
Yeah.
So I wonder if you can do, because I do think that Tashard Jones makes this point about how crime has come down, which it came down from the COVID peak, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's down for the 15 years of local control, but I do think the perception is it's a dangerous place.
Yeah.
And I don't know what you do. I mean, to me, I think the PR effort here, and I'm not a big, PR, people are going to have the feeling they have about it. I actually think the public relations on getting crime down is hugely important to make people feel like you're actually accomplishing something.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. I mean, for the most part with crime, you don't end it, you move it. Mm-hmm. You could push it up into Florissant if you want to. That's possible, but I don't know that you're really solving any problems there. But it is a dangerous place, and I believe that. Not only do I believe that, I believe the conventionalism of the state is St. Louis is a dangerous place. I also think the conventionalism of the state's been St. Louis is a dangerous place my entire life.
Yeah.
So, good on Kehoe for taking this on. Good on Nick Schroer. Good on Travis Fitzwater. Travis Fitzwater has a big brain and is good at these types of pieces of legislation. I think he'll do well with it. But you really have to, at the end of the day, break it down to what is his, what will be the legacy of this will be, do people believe crime has went down? And what does that look like?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because that's ultimately how I believe that's going to be one of the major things that Kehoe's going to be judged on in his first term, is if they got that passed, if they got it passed this year, how things are going to look in the next 3 years before he runs for re-election, if he does. And so I think
he'll run for re-election.
Yeah,
and he'll win.
So I think that'll be a question that people will ask, and that'll be ultimately that's going to be a pretty big part of his legacy, is how that crime bill goes through and how it works.
I think the legacy. Look, I think Mike Kehoe is going to be governor for the next 8 years. Mm-hmm. I don't think. I mean, short of a health emergency.
Yeah.
I think Mike Kehoe will be governor for the next 8 years. I honestly, I think that it's not a matter. I don't think it's a matter of electoral politics. I think it's a matter of how his time as governor is viewed by people, and I think a lot of that's going to be tied to this. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what else is going on. So, the Senate. If you're a Senate watcher, there's not a lot to watch right now. Committees. Curtis Trent, you wouldn't watch a tort reform hearing?
Yeah. So the Committee on General Laws, which Curtis Trent is the chair of, he had two bills in there yesterday. 46, which deals with the removal of capital gains tax in the state. But the one that which I covered both, but the one I was most interested in was 47, which it would change Missouri's Rule 52, which deals with class action suits, and it would mirror Federal Rule 23. And the major change there was that people involved in the case would have to have the burden of proving the class action suit on all these separate categories. And so I think that is probably the most, when it comes to like most possible to pass in the Senate, I think 47 has a good chance of doing that.
You've got a wall of pro-trial attorneys, Republican senators now. I think the wall of Democrats is as weak as I've ever seen it, and the wall of Republican trial attorney senators is stronger than I've ever seen it. I mean, if you just go down and look, I don't think Mike Moon's looking to do tort reform. I don't think Jill Carter is. Curtis Trent is, no doubt. If you look, Ben Brown, I don't think Ben Brown's dying to do tort. I don't think Mike Siripoy is. I think you've got a wall of people that they might nibble on the edges. I'm just pessimistic. I mean, Nick Shore and Adam Shelting, I don't think they're. I mean, if you go look at the Ethics Commission reports, I don't think they raised all that money from trial attorneys saying we're going to pass tort reform.
Yeah.
I mean, Nick is a trial lawyer now. So my gut tells me, David Gregory. I don't think David Gregory ran for state senate to pass a bunch of tort reform. So it's going to be it's a heavy lift to pass a tort reform bill in that Missouri Senate right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little more pessimistic than you are about it, but I do think there's smart people on both sides of this. This is one of the issues where everybody's kind of got good lobbyists and it's a good crew. You probably, it's like a lot of things. You should probably pass a tort reform bill every so often just to say that a tort reform bill just to say you did take the steam off it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, let's talk about what we're hearing. Whispering Gallery is going very well. I think it's going good. I'm happy about it. I think it's terrific. If you're watching, if you're not, text me 573-429-5770. We'll get you the pricing, get you signed up.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm texting, there's only very few people I would actually stop this to return their text. It's a very short list, but one of them did call. So anyhow, but looking forward, I'm hearing budget's gonna be a little tighter this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know how that's gonna work with a lot of the plans in the legislature to cut taxes in one way or another.
We have to tighten the budget.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to find. And I'm hearing, one of the places they've identified is some of the. Maybe merging some of the PIOs, the information officers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe some mental health, the bureaucracy may be a little thick. They can trim that a little.
Yeah.
I think that may be the first couple things I've heard of some ideas that, a lot of ideas are thrown out. Very few of them are grabbed onto, but that idea didn't go over that poorly.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting to see because they are going to have to start tightening the budget, especially if they're going to want to cut taxes. They're going to have to find a way to get money from other sources or just cut from other places. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to maybe put in some more sales tax increases or possibly cut from different departments.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. The belt tightening is coming. It may not. I think this year they'll start tweaking some things to set up for next year's legitimate, tightening. But I think you're going to see, a bit forward look, and some of that belt tightening I think will be, I think you'll see some of the green sprouts of that come out now.
Yeah.
So politics, I thought Trump's inauguration was cool.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed it being inside a lot more than outside.
I thought it was bizarre though to have Trump saying Joe Biden sucks with Joe Biden sitting right there.
And he was smiling the whole time about it, which you kind of have to do, but it was pretty interesting to see.
Let's be honest, not completely there. Kamala Harris is that. I'll tell you what. I think Trump, I'm the OG Trump. I was on the radio saying Trump was great when everybody else was saying Cruz was, Trump's. They called Trump a rhino back then. But I think he should have went to the inauguration of Biden. Mm-hmm. I respect Joe Biden. He had to know Trump was going to be Trump. I don't think Trump has another gear
Yeah.
except attack. Kudos to both Biden and Harris for showing up to that inauguration, sitting there, taking it a tongue lashing, and watching your nemesis have a victory lap. I say I respect that.
Yeah.
I respect both of them more after seeing they did it with dignity and class, and good for them.
Yeah.
I think that was the right thing to do, and good on them.
Yeah, just like how it's always nice to see all the former governors here for the inauguration, it's always great to see the former presidents all there.
Not all of them, right?
Well, but no, it's always great to see, that camaraderie between former elected officials and
the respect for the office
Yep.
and the government. And I really that had to suck, right? If you're Harris and Biden, that ain't fun.
no.
But good, and it was more awkward because I normally when I watch these speeches, you have the old folks, the former presidents are out of the camera shot. Man, the way they set that up, you couldn't really shoot Trump unless you shot a close up his face without getting Biden. And you know what? Good on them. I thought his speech was Trump. He gave a Trump speech, which I thought was good. It was short.
Yep.
I liked it. I'm sorry. The problem Democrats have, in my opinion, in a state like Missouri and other states that are similar, is some of the stuff doesn't make sense
No.
to regular people. Now, the definition of progressive is you're looking forward, right? But the truth is, some of this stuff just does not make sense.
No.
And so it's like the gender thing. I'm sorry, you're going to lose. You're never going to bring in Jeff County back in, South County, St. Louis back in. And I'm not talking about Howell County and Butler County, where they've been voting Republican for decades and decades now. I'm talking about places that used to be competitive, places Jay Nixon won.
Yep.
You're not going to bring Greene Countyans in by telling him there's more than two genders.
Yeah.
You're just not. And whether that's true, not true, you can decide the good or the bad. In my white trash opinion, you're not going to convince people in the city of St. Charles who probably want to vote Democrat. They're not going to do it when you're trying to tell them, when you can't define a man and a woman.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Same thing with a lot of people in Jackson County when you're moving out more eastward.
Well, Jackson County is becoming more red all the time.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, with the Republican Party being much more open to organized labor, in Missouri, if you're a Democrat, it's like I have to deal with all this radical crap, and then the issues we could win on get taken care of at the ballot box. It'd be I could see it'd be very frustrating for someone in Doug Beck's position because you just The fact is, it's like they tried to run that. The Democrats took the January 6th thing, which those clowns should not have done that. I have no sympathy for them. But they try to tell you it's about democracy. No, I'm pretty sure Trump is not Hitler. And I'm pretty sure there'll be an election in 2 years. And it just, it's too much. You're over the top. And I think until they calm down, until they get more rational voices at the front, I just think you're going to see this parade of crazy, and regular folks that could vote one way or the other are just going to turn their nose up to it. It's one thing Republicans have to worry about is there are people in the Republican Party that get off on the racism, crazy, goofy crap, and they take stuff too far, and the Democrats can hang that on them.
Yeah.
I just think you take the January 6th thing; they went too far with it. It was a bunch of goofs. It wasn't Trump's fault. Did Trump gin people up? Yes. Every political leader gins up some crazies. It is not on them what they do, in my opinion. If Mike Kehoe got on a speech and said, I want you to go break the windows of the Truman Building and burn the place down, I'd be like, yeah, I'm not doing that, man. And if I did do it, it's not Mike Kehoe's fault.
Yeah.
It's Scott Faughn's fault. So, goofy hat guy, I'm sorry. If you're in there breaking stuff, people are having to work to pay for that. I got no sympathy for you. But I also think, look, making it as an attack on democracy and all that, pearl clutching, BS, whatever. And then I just think Trump has always been saved by his enemies.
Yep.
They go too far. They did try to put him in prison on bullshit charges. And that's, I'm sorry. If you hate Trump, I get it. There have been I don't think Barack Obama should be in jail. Right? And I think the small government Republicans have created a federal bureaucracy where you broke 5 laws sitting in that chair right there. Anytime the federal government, the only difference between a U.S. attorney and Joseph Stalin is Stalin has a better mustache. That's the only difference. If they want to imprison you and bankrupt you, they will.
Yeah.
And they'll invent a law. The Republicans have made so many things illegal. Like I've heard in Missouri now, you can't text and drive. That's illegal. I honestly think that here in Missouri, it's going to be more cost effective to list the 4 or 5 things that are still legal than listing the stuff that's illegal. I've never seen people that say they're for small government that want more government at every damn turn.
Most of them come from St. Charles too.
It is an interesting world.
There needs to be a case study on that.
It is an interesting world. To me, if you want to text while you're driving, what the hell business is it of mine? You do what you want to do. I also think you should be able to black your car out totally. So why should the cops be able to see in your car? I mean, I don't know. Why are they special?
Yeah.
I don't get that. Why do you need a front license plate?
I think that's on the agenda this year for bills, right? Isn't it?
Well, you want to know why there's a front license plate? Has jack shit of nothing to do with public safety. It's because the dream of the small government Republicans is to get plate readers to scan your plates. That's what it's for. And it's much easier to scan front plates than back.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the conservatives make you have a front plate.
Yeah.
Is so that they can have a computer database of your plate to harass you. That's the only reason it's there. Has nothing to do with anything else except them wanting to put a database of you together by the government to harass you.
Yeah. And
by God, the Republicans in that building will just say, yes, sir. What do you want? More government? I'll take a double helping. So it's a little. This is kind of the last of the silly season. We're going to get into real stuff coming up next week. Speaking of next week, Kelton Sunday, Tony Lukemeyer on the show, right?
Yes, sir.
Brad Pollitt, Betsy Fogel, Bryant Wolfland's going to be on. I think 90% sure. Then I think maybe Eric Woods, Joe Dahl, one of the two. But we'll have Tony Lukemeyer lead the show off this Sunday for This Week in Missouri Politics. Jake, I think Tuesday we have a big announcement, right?
We do.
Kelton, for our announcement, could we incorporate the new logo with Jake's beard?
Yes.
Like put a red beard on the new logo for. Well, we have an exciting new development that's going to be brought to you next month. We'll announce it next week. Thank all of you for watching. Very grateful. Thank our sponsors, United Fiber from the Great Northwest and the Courtyard by Marriott. We will see you Sunday for This Week in Missouri Politics.